from each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are, from memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried, and with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight, reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we deep dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey.
And if you can't tell, we are ready for Christmas, and it is Christmas Eve. And if you're not listening to this when it comes out, you're a little bit behind. But if you are, happy Christmas Eve.
That's right. We want to wish everybody a very merry and memorable and safe holiday season. And for our holiday season episode today, we will be diving into the 53rd Disney feature-length film from June 21st, 1961. It is a film called The Parent Trap. This is the original Parent Trap, not the 90s remake. We'll get there in a handful of years. It is, a live-action, wonderful film. And The Parent Trap is based on a 1949 German children's novel by Erich Kästner. And I hope I'm not mispronouncing that last name. And before I pass it over to you for some opening synopsis and thoughts, a little tie-in that I did find about this is that the mother in this film is played by Catherine O'Hara, who also plays the mother in the original and magnificent film, The Miracle on 34th Street. So that's a nice little Christmas tie-in right there.
Nice.
Would you like to start us off with some synopsis and some opening thoughts and maybe some facts about this?
Sure. Teenage twin sisters swap place and scheme to reunite their divorced parents.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is streaming on Disney Plus. It runs for 2 hours and 9 minutes. It is considered a comedy and romance.
Yes, it does have Hayley Mills playing in both the roles. She's playing in a dual role.
Yes.
So if you didn't get sick of her after Pollyanna, we got double the pleasure today.
Yeah. So when you watch this film, the opening up, it actually credits her twice, Hayley Mills, because she does play both Sharon and Susan. In this dual performance.
Which one is your favorite?
Sharon. It was groundbreaking for the time. It had split screen technology, wowing audiences. And it was an innovation that highlighted Disney's technical prowess and became a benchmark for visual effects in family films.
Definitely.
It's definitely had cultural impact in setting the stage for remakes and for being a family classic, like you had mentioned before.
Yep.
And I talked about the split screen. I can go into that later if you want me to go into that later, like how they did it, because I was always confused when we watched the 90s version when I was younger. And I think it kind of made it a little bit easier after reading up on it and then watching this rewatch. Actually, it was not a rewatch for me because this is the first time I saw this version. Kind of seeing how they did that with split screen technology and body doubles. But it has themes of family unity, sibling bonds, and romantic reconciliation.
That's the prowess of the film right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, are we ready to start our dive?
Yep.
All right, so we start off with an animated crochet-esque style credits.
I was not prepared for that.
Yeah, for the
credits. I was just like, what is this? I was not prepared for the animation style. It was cool, though.
It looks like a puppet show. There's lightning bolts. There's a sign, like a crocheted sign that says, bless our broken home. And the letters in the name appear to be crying. and we see an animated introduction to the characters with the Parent Trap song with the Cupids. It says that the songs of this film are by the Sherman Brothers, the almighty Sherman Brothers, and that was by far the longest opening credits of any film that we've watched yet. It might as well have been a short film. We start off with a fancy car driving to what appears to be a summer camp. We see a fancy dressed girl from Boston getting dropped off with all of her bougie supplies. And it is the girl from Pollyanna, like we mentioned earlier. They show her around into her cabin, and we learn that her name is Sharon. And we waste very little time because she is then in the mess hall eating some food, and she locks eyes and is in shock with a girl who looks exactly like her, just with a little bit different of a haircut, a little bit shorter of a haircut.
Yeah, I definitely liked Sharon's hair better.
The longer? Yeah. Well. Oh, well.
I felt like she was also the nicer of the two.
I mean, she is pretty bougie too, so.
But she was nice.
Yeah. So then the other one's fun too, though. So she sees a girl who looks just like her with a different haircut, and then one of Sharon's friends says, "The nerve of her coming here with your face."
Susan's friends.
Oh, okay. Somebody says, "The nerve of her coming here with your face."
To Susan.
Then the leader of the camp comes up to talk to all the girls. She calls herself the Supreme Commander, which is some Star Wars stuff right there.
She actually carried herself around like Captain Phantasma.
There you go. Some Star Wars stuff right there.
You think that was her? Do you think she played that role?
I mean, this is 60 years before that role.
No. Star Wars took place in a long time ago.
Yes. So they bring like a boy on stage, and everyone's googling over this boy.
Yeah.
And they find out that there's going to be a dance
from the neighboring camp.
Yep, from the boys' camp, basically. Yeah. So there's going to be a dance later, at some point in this week between the girls' camp and the boys' camp. But untidy girls will not be allowed to go.
Yeah, so you have to be on your best behavior, and everything has to be tidy, or you're not allowed to go to the dance.
Correct. So then Sharon sees her doppelganger. She's like down by like the waterfront, and she sees her doppelganger in a boat that stops by, and she says that they look together. But then Susan, the other girl, says that Sharon, she tells Sharon that she sees a spitting image of Frankenstein. Talk about being rude to yourself there. So then they tip over the doppelganger's boat into the water, causing them to get all wet. And then at night, I don't actually know the answer to this. So at night, I guess I could do the research. But that night, one of the lookalikes sneaks into the other lookalike's cabin and plays some pranks on them, like tie some things up.
Yes. So Susan and her friends sneak into Sharon's cabin and basically booby trap the entire cabin. There's honey, all the sticky stuff, strings everywhere. I don't know what else they use. They use something else. And basically trash the entire place. And then I guess the next morning, which must have been the morning of the dance, they must have been having like cabin inspections because Captain Phantasma walks up with her other
She's
two
the
people.
Supreme Commander.
Yeah. Walks up with her other two people and finds the mess, as they apparently didn't notice themselves until they walked into the sticky stuff. Yeah.
So
that's why you should always look into a room before you walk in.
They fail the tidiness. One time I was at a camp and we decided that we were gonna try to get like a perfect 0 on our
Rub it in, Jeff. I always wanted to go to a camp like this.
Oh, I do all the time. But we were intense, so we figured that we were going to try to get a perfect 0, and we were like knocking down trees and stuff, and we got in a ton of trouble. That actually happened, but whatever. That's a long time ago.
I never got to go to camp because people like him.
I mean, Here we are. We've camped at Walt Disney World before.
Yeah,
That was pretty
different.
bougie.
That wasn't.
I would go again right now. 100%. I would go
That
again
was
right now.
not bougie, and that was not summer camp.
No, it was not. So
Time out though. Do you ever remember watching on the Disney Channel Bug Juice?
Mhm.
That was one of my favorite shows. Okay. That's what it reminded me of this.
So it's time for the dance, and everyone's having a sock hopping good time. But Sharon and her friends are planning they're planning their revenge on this.
Because they don't get to go to the dance. They're having to watch everything from behind.
I didn't put that together.
Did you not notice they weren't wearing dresses?
No,
They didn't get to go because their entire
because they weren't tidy.
You didn't recognize.
The more you know.
Wow.
So they're planning their revenge,
Mhm.
and then we see that a boy named Wilfred was talking to Susan, the doppelganger sister,
Mhm.
who then tells him that she's from Monterey, California, and that she doesn't have a mother, only a father. So setting the seeds for that of where they're from. So now we know one's from Massachusetts and one's from California.
Mhm.
And
they have a ranch in California.
Yeah, and they sure do. And then Sharon, I'm sorry, sneaks up behind her and cuts her dress, causing her underwear to show for the whole dance, and she gets embarrassed in front of Wilfred. But she doesn't know at first.
So yeah, but she cuts the whole. It wasn't just Sharon; it was her friends also. They like each cut like a section of it out, but they cut the section of it out, and they leave the bow in the back, so the bow hangs over her underwear. And I don't know how she didn't notice that all of a sudden it's a lot cooler because she was just complaining to him about, oh, it's hot out here, and I thought, well, you're about to not be hot. But she didn't notice.
They say that it serves her right for being in the tent, and then that causes the two girls to start fighting, causing them to knock over the music and all the food, and it causing the party to come to an end.
Yeah, and they just basically had a Home Alone moment, and it was one thing after another that just kept catastrophizing itself.
Yep, and the Supreme Commander lady says that was
hooliganism.
That was the most disgusting display of hooliganism this camp has ever seen.
I didn't know hooliganism was an actual word, and then
I didn't know how to spell wretched.
Autocorrection before I had finished it, like you know how like when you're starting to type something out and like autocorrect will be like, oh, are you trying to spell this when you're doing it? And I was like, oh my god, this is a real word.
So that is the most disgusting display of hooliganism the camp has ever seen. The Supreme Commander lady tells them that she is shocked to see that kind of behavior out of sisters, but the two girls are appalled by that, by the thought, because they've never seen each other before, despite their amazing resemblance.
Yeah, and I don't think it was the Supreme Commander person. I think it was the other lady.
Okay.
The Supreme Commander lady is the super skinny lady. I think it might have been like maybe the head of the camp or something.
No.
And then that's when the Supreme Commander goes, I think they're just lookalikes.
Yeah,
and she was like, oh, so they're not sisters. No, I think they're just lookalikes.
But they're forced to carry all of their belongings and luggage on a hike, followed by all of the girls that were whistling as their punishment. They're forced to spend the last 4 weeks of camp. I didn't go to camp for this long, but the last 4 weeks of camp staying in the same cabin together, and they have to eat at the isolation table.
Yeah. You're going to learn to like each other.
That's right. So then one of them starts to hang up pictures from all like the Hollywood hunks.
Elvis.
Yeah, but they didn't say it was a picture of Elvis, but she called him something else.
No.
Ricky Nelson.
No, the picture of Elvis, I think, was still on the wall.
Okay.
And then another picture fell.
Of Ricky Nelson.
Yeah, I don't think that was actually Elvis. It was another picture. And she was like, oh, it's just ruined.
That's right. So like a storm comes, knocking the window of the tent and or of the cabin and causing like a mess to go everywhere. Yeah. But this is the first time that the two of them work together to clean it up, and then they have a conversation kind of like about themselves.
Sharon, because the girl couldn't believe that she didn't know who that was.
Ricky Nelson. But she says, "What do you come from? Outer space?" The two of them ended up talking about where they're from. One's from Massachusetts, one's from California. They show pictures. They eat Fig Newtons. They discuss their parent situation, And they say that soon most weddings will end up in divorce because one of them only has a father and one of them only has a mother.
Hmm.
Dun, dun, dun. They discuss that they're the same age, 13.
Hmm.
And no kidding, they have the exact same birthday. It's
Hmm.
funny, isn't it?
And Sharon's the smart one and starts putting it all together while
Mhm.
Susan's completely clueless and she wants to go to the cafeteria because she's hungry.
She is hungry.
And then Sharon calls her out on
They
it.
put you only talk about food or whatever.
Yeah, how can you only talk about food at a time like this? And she's like, what are you talking about?
Mhm.
She's like, don't you see what's happening?
So
She's like, Rolly.
so the rain has stopped, so they're sitting outside and
And everything's all of a sudden magically dry.
Yeah.
Disney magic.
that's right. So they I mean I said Florida. So they are becoming
Did it actually say where the camp was?
No, I don't think so. They start to become friends. They're more talking about their missing parents and how lovely they remember the other one being. And then
How can they remember how lovely the other one was? They left when they were 1. It references that later.
that's right. Sharon starts to get it. She says, "Don't you feel it? Don't you find it peculiar?" She then goes inside to show a picture of her mother, triggering Susan to remember the photo.
Yeah, and she said there was a picture of my mother in my dad's office, but he caught me looking at it once and
And
he
got rid of
removed
it.
it.
So she remembers that picture. So then now they know
And then she says, how do you have that photo?
that's my mother.
Well, didn't see that coming.
So they have this tense and touching conversation, which is broken up by the lunch bugle.
And then I thought it was funny because one of them says, they've somehow bisected us.
Yes, yeah, I'll get there on that one. Yeah.
And I was just like,
Um,
what kind of kids talk like this?
so the twin Susan stays behind to cry, and Sharon goes to get some food, but then she ends up coming back to comfort her sister.
Yeah.
And then
Because all of a sudden Susan's not hungry.
nope, and then she's eating ice cream like the next scene or whatever.
Well, it's because they had sisterly bond, and she's
Yep.
like, it's okay.
So they say
It's
that
not over.
they said that their parents must have quarreled and separated and just bisected
And
us.
somehow bisected us.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I come from a divorced family. And I have to say that I think that something like that should be illegal. You should never be able to separate siblings like that, especially twins, in a divorce case.
It happened to one of my friends.
In a divorce case?
I'm not going to say the name here, but yeah.
So anyway, and I, coming from a divorced family, always wanted to go to summer camp and find my twin. It didn't happen for me. I'm sorry. I have twin siblings, but they're not my twin.
That's right. So they are certain that secretly their parents must still be in love with each other
Yeah.
because they're young girls who are dreaming, and then they
Mhm.
but they're dying to meet the other parent.
Mhm.
So they begin to hatch up a plan to switch places.
Because they basically spent 12 years of their life
Mhm.
without this. No,
So
12 because they left at 1.
that's true. And they both get goosebumps knowing that it's like a monumental thing because they get goosebumps.
And we
when
can just
they-
switch places.
So they're gonna switch places, which then causes the parents like they think it's gonna cause the parents to have to meet each other again.
Mhm.
So they cut and they style each other's hair to look even more like the same.
Yeah, so Susan
And-
cut Sharon's hair off.
Discussing that they discuss the different living situations.
And
One-
their habits.
One
so
has
they
to
can
chew.
blend.
One has to chew gum. One has to bite nails.
Mhm.
They talked about like the proper way to say things.
Actually, poor Sharon has to do all these things that she's never done before because Susan's just so
Proper.
no.
Oh, no,
Susan
yeah,
is
yeah.
the weird one. And she's like, I bite my nails, and if you don't bite your nails, Dad'll notice.
And he noticed right away.
Yeah. And she goes, and you have to chew gum because I always choose gum.
Mhm.
I always choose gum, is what she told her.
But then she's teaching the other one how to be prim and proper, and she's like can't, shan't, aunt,
Yes.
can't, shan't, aunt.
Yes. Must
Um,
be a Massachusetts thing with the aunts. Aunt. I would have been.
Can't, shan't,
I
aunt.
would have like blown my cover on like pickup.
So speaking of pickup, the pickup date comes from camp. It has arrived. One goes to California, and the other one goes to Boston.
Mhm.
Um,
But they realized that whenever the parents meet, they were talking about how you'll have to have mom bring you back to California because Boston is no place to rekindle a romance. So they already knew
that's wrong.
that's what they said.
So then we go to Boston first. Like
Yeah.
in the film, we're going to Boston first, and I don't know. From now on out, I pretty much refer to him as fake person being this person, whatever. So whatever girl is in Boston,
So that's technically Susan now.
but she's pretending to be Sharon.
Sharon.
So they're giving her such a hard time about her hair.
Yeah.
But she
And her grandmother complains about her getting her hair cut, and I thought, lady, y'all
Yeah,
have the same haircut. So
so-
how are you going to
oh,
complain?
I have a
They have the
complaint.
same
I
haircut.
have a complaint about her in a second.
What
but,
have you done with your hair?
But she meets her grandfather, and she gets very emotional. She gets very emotional about the smell of tobacco and peppermint, because she doesn't remember these people, but they think that she's the other sister.
Yeah, they think she's Sharon.
She's
And I just want to make memories and remember my grandpa smelling like peppermint and tobacco.
She's very spellbound and starts to cry when she sees her mother.
And a cute little moment that I really enjoyed there was because he said, and I always smell like peppermint to cover up the tobacco, and I always smoke the tobacco to irritate your grandmother.
Yeah. She meets her mother and she's spellbound. She starts to cry. She can't help it.
And her mother's like, "What's wrong?"
If she goes, "If only you knew." But then they comment on her hair. This is what I wrote down. So then this bougie grandmother comes down and she's like,
but that's when the grandpa's like, I knew something was different.
So the bougie grandmother was like, "Are you a boy or a girl? Make up your mind." And I was like, I hate that. I'm so happy that we've grown out of that in society. Like, ugh.
Well, I love how I jumped to straight. Y'all have the same haircut.
Yeah. Well,
how are you going to complain about her hair?
They discuss camp, and she's still shocked to see her mother. The mother is snooty, but nowhere as much as the grandmother is. Like I said, fake Sharon. Fake Sharon asks questions about marriage, causing the mother to get nervous
because of a boy she met at camp.
But it does work to get the conversation to be about her father. They're walking around Boston. It looks like the swan boats in the Boston Public Garden are behind them, like in Good Will Hunting. You complained about the black, like the screen in the back, just not being real.
Oh yeah, it was just like a green screen.
Yeah, but they're walking around and they're talking about the father. But at the same,
like live action Boston in the background that just does not match up to them. It was definitely not filmed on site.
No. Speaking of things that will filmed on site, the plane arrives in California, where we have fake Susan, correct? Okay, so
you have
Sharon being fake Susan. She is spellbound by seeing her father. She almost blows her cover right away. She starts referring to things as we and us, as opposed to instead of saying me and I.
And he said, "Oh, so you're still chewing your nails?" "Oh, she said you would notice that." He's like, "What?" "Oh, nothing."
So when they get back to the
I thought it was funny because every so often, like, I was like, she totally has a British accent, like, and she keeps like busting into a British accent, and nobody's catching that.
I mean, they didn't catch her playing the piano later too, but whatever.
He did, and she said she learned at camp.
Yeah, that's later.
And then she started.
Yeah. So playing. Both these families have a wait staff of some kind. I wanted to point that out. But they get back to the house, to the whatever you said, the whatever. So they get back to the ranch, the father's ranch, and the dog starts barking because he doesn't recognize the fake Susan.
Yeah, he doesn't recognize Sharon. The dog is onto something.
But she then sees her father is talking to a lady. Uh-oh. Things are going as planned.
The help there, which is like
who's known them their whole life.
Though. Yeah, I don't know. She seems more like some kind of family person. Maybe because the brother was there. So the brother must have helped out on the ranch, and I just assumed that that was his wife. Or
Okay,
something.
well,
I don't
I
know.
refer to her as like the staff or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a family business, and then they just hire each other, and I don't know. But she also was like, something's different about you.
You know,
You know, we confide in everything together. You know, you can still confide in me. Why is
yeah,
the dog not coming to you?
yeah. That's not till later on.
No,
But yeah,
she did it as soon as she walked up to her. She goes, "Why is the dog acting like that way towards you?" And she was like, "No, I don't know."
well, first of all, she's been gone for 5 weeks at least. Um, so she sees the father talking to a lady. So things aren't going as planned, and then this lady is Mrs. Robinson, Vicky, a lovely dressed younger lady. Fake Susan decides that she's going to tell the lady all about her dad and how he plays the field to try to plot to put
Makes
a
a
wedge in
ninny of
between them.
himself.
Yeah, he's got all these ladies or whatever.
Making a ninny of himself.
So then that night, the girls call each other, and
Can you imagine the phone bill at that time?
Yeah, it's true. That's true. It's also a 3-hour time difference. So they call each other to talk about how there's trouble and and that she has to bring the mother to California to fix this
quickly. We're about to have a problem.
But the real Susan will not bring her mother out yet because she's not ready to give her up yet. So next day, fake Susan tries talking to her father about her mother, but then he just makes up lies about her makes fun of her appearance, makes fun of who she married and stuff. It's there that a bug flies across the screen, and I was like, that's not supposed to happen. I made us like stop and like rewind it.
Yeah, I was like, what are you trying? Well, I'll rewind it and show you again. I was like, are you talking about the bug? Because you don't have to. I saw it the first time.
She talks about missing her mother, which causes the father to avoid the conversation.
Actually, they did talk about missing the mother, but then she starts talking about, well, you know, just things. Like there's a certain time a girl starts to miss her mom. And then he starts to think he's going to have like some kind of like birds and the bees talk, it sounds like. And then he starts talking about something. She's like, I already knew all of this.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And he was like, well, what are you talking about? And then they're like, never mind. I was just like, what an awkward conversation to try to have at a golf course, like on the middle of the golf course.
We also see that Vicky is talking negatively about the fake Susan to Vicky's mother. She's very fake. She's more fake than the girl charade.
And she looks like an extremely, extremely, extremely young Lady Tremaine.
Yeah, she's young.
And her haircut. God.
She's actually the mother in the new one. Did you know that? In the Lindsay Lohan one, she's the mother of the wife to be. So she comes back to play in that one too.
Oh, that's nice. But I mean, I can't remember what she looked like in that one to see if her hair got better, but
we'll get there.
I just thought to myself, why would you have your hair cut that short and then just like basically put it like up?
60s.
That was terrible.
So Vicky vows to send her to boarding school. So then the father and the fake daughter go off horseback riding, and he tries to ask her and talk to her about Vicky, but the daughter is avoiding it, and then but she's clearly getting upset. And then this is where I wrote down that the maid lady she's onto the ploy now. The changed appetite, the dog's mood, everything. So then this is where fake Susan blows her cover and confides in the lady.
I have to tell somebody.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. Then that's when she's like, oh, you're Sharon. Oh my God. And they all get so excited because they haven't seen them since they were 1.
That's right. So then could
you imagine?
No.
Not seeing a family member since
12 years.
12 years ago. Like you've never seen them. And all of a sudden they just accidentally pop into your life.
So she avoids talking to her father again. And then she finally is like, look, I want Vicky as a sister because she doesn't
I don't think she
doesn't look old enough, basically.
Yeah, but I think he was like, I want her to be part of the family. Yeah. Oh, I think that would be great. I've always wanted a sister.
Yeah, so she was just playing along.
But I thought it was funny because it's like, I've always wanted a sister.
Oh, that's there you go. Um,
And he never fed into it at all. He was just like, well, no, that's not how
yeah,
I want to marry
yeah.
her.
Well, you
And I'm
can't.
sitting here thinking,
She's just a child. She says that's revolting. Yeah,
yeah. Then she starts yelling and throwing a fit.
yeah. She has to
I
go.
cut my hair.
Oh yeah, there
I
we go.
bit
Yeah.
my nails.
So
And
she's
he has no idea.
yep. She starts again to go on a tirade about the
I wish that the helper staff, whoever, if she was family or whoever she was, I wish she would have walked in
Yeah.
and seen that.
So she goes.
'Cause she would have probably been like, "Oh my
She
god!"
goes on a tirade about all the progress they had made and how she cut her hair. She's almost blowing her cover, like you said.
And you never once see her chew gum.
No,
But
well,
she bit her
we
nails.
don't have any time. So,
She cut her hair.
fake Susan accuses Vicky of being after her father's money,
Yeah.
and then, but then
Which she actually really is, because in a scene earlier, I don't think you discussed it. The mom and her were talking about
Mhm.
how in California the land laws.
Yep.
I don't know exactly what land laws they were talking about, but I guess it must have been like something like even if you divorce, like maybe you have to, I don't know, alimony or something back in the day. I don't know.
yeah.
Land laws of the 60s.
At the same time, around this point, the California fake sister sends the Boston fake sister a telegram.
Mm-hmm. So
And
Sharon sends Susan a telegram.
it was something about Albert Bell or
Albert?
no, it wasn't
No.
Albert. It was whatever. It was something basically saying "Call me tonight."
Alexander Graham
Yeah.
at 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Alexander Graham at 3 a.m. They're like, well, what does this mean? And I
Yeah.
wanted to be like,
Oh, it was
man, are y'all that
a
stupid?
boy she met at camp or whatever. Was what she
That
said.
means phone call, because that's the person that invented the phone.
Yeah.
At 3 a.m.
But she grandfather catches their phone call and he listens in,
Mm-hmm.
blowing the spot on the other side of the country.
I have to say, I think it's funny that the helper staff female in Susan's real life that Sharon meets and figures it out first, and the grandpa in Sharon's old life that finds out
Mhm.
Susan, are my favorite two people out of those.
So the
And they're
grandfather,
definitely the most understanding.
the grandfather supports her coming clean. So the next morning she comes clean to the mother and the grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
She starts yelling at them for splitting up the kids as children.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, "This is getting juicy." She says that that her real daughter is in California with her father, and the mother is so excited to finally see Susan. They hug emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
The two catch up about parents' love.
Yeah.
But legally, she has to switch them back. This is where she says something about like, what are we, like bathroom hand towels or whatever, his and
I
hers.
feel like a bathroom hand towel.
They have to switch them back. So the mother is going to fly her back to California, but the father starts to like put like a bug in her ear about, the guy. So she has to stop in New York first to buy new clothes.
Yeah, because he's like, you do still kind of dress outdated. She's like, what's wrong with the way I dress? And your hair.
They
Have
hate,
a fun
they hate,
time.
they hate hair in that family thing. Back in California, the father is having a bad. He just says he's having a bad feeling, and at the exact same time, a
Like the
cab.
storm's coming.
That's
Do you
right.
ever feel like there's a storm coming?
And then at the exact same time, a cab pulls up with his daughter and
After he
his
leaves.
ex. Both sisters together again, but the father doesn't know this yet.
Yeah.
They tell the mother that the father is getting
But
married.
the helper staff runs in and she's like, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. So she obviously
Yeah.
knew the mom too. And she had made a reference earlier that he didn't know a good thing when he had it.
No.
Earlier, before the mom's ever back in the picture.
They tell the mother that the father's getting married because that dude works quick.
Mm-hmm.
And but then we get some more hijinks.
He didn't work too quick. I mean, it's 12 years. He's just
Well, that's true, but it was
He's
like
just now
5
getting
weeks or
married.
whatever.
That is true. Well, I don't know. You never know. He might have knew her before
Yeah.
she went to camp, and he might have just been waiting to the right
True.
moment. But
True. There's more hijinks between people thinking that the sisters are the other one.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about how the wedding's on Saturday, so this minister comes to like meet the father and Vicky.
Meanwhile, the mom's upstairs showering.
Yep. The father goes upstairs to change, and he sees the other girl. More hijinks. The mother leaves the bathroom just as the father goes into it. So there's more hijinks. This time there's
if she
there's a
just
bra
got out
involved.
of the shower,
There's like this bra.
Yeah, but if she just got out of the shower and you just walked in there, the air has to be like somewhat humid.
Yeah.
Did you not notice?
Well, he notices her bra.
Then he's gonna go walk in there and ask Susan, and he opens the door. But how do you not realize, because you just left Susan downstairs dressed completely different
Mhm.
to be good hostess? And then you open the door and then you see Susan laying on the bed in a dress.
Yeah.
And then you go to ask her about this bra you're holding, and then you're like, never mind. And you just shut the door. Because
Mhm.
obviously it's not hers.
Nope. So then
But
we
you didn't recognize that they're wearing something completely different.
I mean, he's got a lot going on. The
He
minister
had plenty of warnings.
the minister says that he wants
I love the minister.
a double bourbon on the rocks is what he asks for.
Yes, he said, "Dude, would you like?" He's like, "I guess you wouldn't want to partake, um, in a beverage." And he goes, "Oh, I could probably do a marital celebration drink. That would be fine." And then he said, "Double on
Double
the rock."
bourbon on the rocks.
Yeah.
I
And he goes,
also
"Oh,
I
okay."
I also learned that I don't think I know how to spell the word bourbon. But the father catches a glimpse of one of the girls hiding with the ex, which causes him to fall over.
Yeah, and I was wondering, did he really think he really saw them, or did he think his mind was playing tricks on him?
I don't know, but he then sees them again, which then causes him to fall into the water. Which worked in 101 Dalmatians, to be fair. But so um, then the two of them, the mother and then the soaked father, finally run into each other and they start screaming at each other until they see the two girls. Surprise!
Together.
Mm-hmm. It's a it's another emotional reunion. They have a whole conversation about diapers. Um, Sharon and Susan, the real ones this time, decided that they're going to leave their ex parents together to talk.
Mhm.
And the mother then meets Vicky, and she says that how adorable Vicky is, minus how close together her eyes are. Go
Actually,
ahead.
when she first meets them, she walks over to Vicky's mother and says, "Oh, you must be Vicky. I've heard
That's true.
so much about
That's
you.
true.
You're so beautiful, just as what Mitch described."
Mm.
And I was just like, "You're funny." And she's like, "No, I'm Mrs."
With her stupid little thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, she ends up punching Mitch in the face. Like the mother punches the father
Yes,
in the
it was
face.
quite hilarious.
Kind of by accident, but
Kind of
whatever.
like, well, I guess that would have made sense, like 50s, 60s boxing, because she was like, she punched him.
Yeah. She punches the dude in the face. And
She actually elbows him twice
yeah.
and then turns around, pops him in the face. And I thought I've never seen anybody punch like that. How did you not break your wrist?
So then she feels bad and she's like trying to take care of him on the couch. And she's like still wearing like not much because she like was like in the shower or whatever, right? And
she's wearing his robe.
Yeah, his robe. Great.
But he keeps talking about how that's indecent. You need to go change.
But then,
and she's super covered up because this is a huge robe.
But then the minister walks in and thinks that he sees something completely different going on. Scandalous. But then the father goes, "No, sir, I can complain. This is my wife." So there's more hijinks. And I wrote here that the dude is really good at acting with a punched eye. He should be in the next Rocky movie. He tells Vicky, he tells Vicky and her snooty mother that this is his ex, and it goes over just as you expected. And the minister is just watching this whole fight with a drink. And
they're like, "Yeah, we don't have to do this." And he goes, "Oh no, I'm quite enjoying myself."
The mother comes.
This is pretty good.
Mother comes back down in a very lovely dress to finally.
She's lovely.
Finally introduce herself to Vicky, which went again exactly how you would expect. And then the girls decide that they're going to work on a plan to get the two of them back together.
Yeah.
They set up a dinner table, I think, outside on the patio for the like kind of recreating their first date. I forgot
which was in New York.
I forgot what
I hate to tell you, but Boston is a place to definitely rekindle a romance before you ever kindle one in New York.
Yeah. So they're gonna recreate their first date. I forgot the name of the restaurant, whatever. So there's a violin player, which I think is like his brother or something, and then
he got roped into the shenanigans.
Sharon is on the piano and Susan's on the guitar in a very fun scene. They sing the famous "Let's Get Together, Yeah Yeah Yeah" song.
Yeah, but Sharon starts playing the piano and she's playing Beethoven.
Mhm.
And Sharon tells him, "You're going to put them to sleep.
So then they play the "Let's Get Together,"
Let's
yeah,
compromise."
song, which is like a very famous like Disney sing-alongs
Yeah.
film or song. Um, but after a nice touching moment, the ex-parents end up talking about splitting up the girls and why they got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the mother says that she got 16 plastic surgeries. 16 plastic surgeries. They can't be that old.
Yeah, they don't look that old.
16. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Mother says that she's leaving in the morning with Sharon, but wishes him luck with Vicky. The girls are very upset. They're sulking about this. The next morning, the two girls come down, but the plane is here. Like it's time for them to go. But then the girls come down and they are dressed exactly the same. They are refusing to tell who's who, and they're refusing to leave. They say that
which made no sense because they even sat there and said, "Well, now that they've been together, we can't separate them."
Yeah, they were gonna do 6 months on and 6 months on or something like that.
Yeah, but they sat there and said we can't separate them, but they were separating them. After they said they could not separate them, and I was like, this makes no sense. Coming from a divorced family and like knowing the patterns of like every other weekend going somewhere or whatever, whatnot, however you get divorced and you get custody of your children, it's all set up different, but it made no sense to me that we cannot split them up. And then it's like, well, I have to take Sharon back to Boston with me. Okay, well, if you do that, you're leaving Susan.
There's still legalities that they have to fix and stuff.
Well, they should have had to fix it before they separated them again.
So, but
I think the parents should be sued by the children.
So, I mean, there you go. But they're discussing they're like, I know you're Sharon. Oh, do you? I know you're Susan. Oh, do you? Like stuff like that. So they forced the parents to take them
and then they make little like comments about like the way one of them pronounces something, so then the other one says it too.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
They force the parents to take them camping all together, and then afterwards they will tell themselves apart. But Vicky is very upset by this camping trip is happening.
Yeah. She did not want the mom staying in the house. She does not want them going camping overnight.
So mother then says to bring Vicky along. And then the mother cons Vicky into taking her spot, which is the girls are upset by that. But
yeah, because she said you may as well go and get to know them because you're going to have them for 6 months of the year.
Clearly, she knows,
and she didn't want to go camping anyway because she had talked about how she didn't like to go out in the woods.
She knows what's going to happen. But Vicky is having a hard time keeping up. She is not built for camping, and the girls are already up to their pranking ways. There's a lizard. There's cougar tracks. There's water pranks. At this point, you had a full-on laughing fit in the middle of this film. You just. It's like you've never seen any of these films before.
I know.
You were just laughing so hard.
No, because I was laughing at how ridiculous she looked. Because she was sitting there and she did not trust the girls at all. So that should have told her something to start with. But then she overhears the girls talking to each other about the cougar tracks. And they're like, oh, well, all you have to do to keep a cougar away is beat the sticks together like this. Yeah. And she's like, oh, like this? And she's like, yeah. So then they both walk off together hitting their sticks like this. And then that night she's going to bed because she's just fed up with all the day's events that have happened. And she's like, I'm going to bed. And then she picks up her sticks and she starts beating them. And I'm just over here like cry laughing because I'm just like, this is this dumb. Like, out of all of the things they have done to you today and you have figured it out, you're still going to beat those sticks? Yeah. I guess it's what like drew the line for me, and I could not help but laugh because I was like, okay, you clearly don't know you're being pranked.
So speaking of being pranked, at night they put a little bit of honey on her toes.
Yeah, they basically recreated the tent scene from camp.
Yeah,
but together this time.
But it does cause some bear club visitors licking her toes, and then Vicky finally just throws a fit. She pushes the father. She slaps one of the girls, which upsets the father. Thoughts on
She's
that?
like, "Do you share everything?" And they said yes. And she said, "Well, give the other one this." And
she
she slaps
slaps
one of
her.
them. And he's like, "They didn't do nothing to you."
Yeah.
And I'm sitting
So
here thinking, actually, they did a lot to
so
her.
that's the deciding factor that he's done with her. Like he slapped
Yeah.
her. She slapped his daughter. So the camping trip ends.
Can you take me back?
The camping
I am
trip.
tired of this fresh, stinking air.
Yeah. The camping trip ends early. The girls apologize for what they did to Vicky.
Yeah.
But
We're sorry.
their father forgives them, and the mother again says that her and Susan are leaving in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But then the father goes
Sharon.
up. Okay, yeah, whatever.
Sharon is
Someone's leaving in the morning. So the father then goes upstairs to clean himself up, but he comes back down and he's all nicely dressed. They have a wine toast and a romantic moment, and they decide that they're going to apologize to each other.
Yeah. And at this point, he seems to kind of change his whole outlook on things because Vicky's not there anymore. And it's like, she's here. Maybe I could win her back over.
Yeah, like
And I hate to say
starts
this.
to make sense.
At the same time, I was sitting there, even though you want them to be together, I was just like, you know what? He didn't want you when she was in the picture. He's not worth your time, lady.
He didn't know. Whatever. They exchange pleasantries. They talk about what they missed about each other. And actually, this is like a really good touching scene. Like it wasn't like I miss how pretty you are. I miss this. It was very much like it's no fun having a clothes closet all to yourself. I miss. It was a bunch of like bad things that they missed about each other.
I miss having a whole walk-in closet to myself.
Yeah.
I miss your wet hose always hanging in the bathroom.
That's what it was. Yeah, I miss like your like clothes hanging in the bathroom.
Wet hose. It was wet hose specifically, and I was just like, oh.
They end up cuddling each other emotionally, and they passionately kiss. And he says that you can slug me in the eye anytime you want.
I would have been like, all right, it's on.
But then like the camera goes up to the girl,
and his black eye's gone. Mm-hmm. It's already gone at this point. So how much time do you think's actually passed?
Oh, he had like one of those like T-bone steaks on his eyes or whatever. So then at the at the same time, like after this scene, it cuts to the sisters that are sleeping in bed, and one of them like pops up awake, and she's like, "I just had the craziest dream," and the other one's like, "Oh, what was the dream?" And she said it was a dream where she was in a wedding. Like the two of them were in a wedding, something about the wedding dress or whatever.
She described the dress, and then all of a sudden end up in that scene.
Yep, it cuts to the scene where it's an actual wedding of their parents, and the two girls are in the wedding. The grandparents are there. The father's family is there. Even the boozy minister guy is there, and the parents get married, and the girls smile, and they did it like victoriously. And then right at the end, the bless our broken home sign becomes bless our happy home. The end. Anything that you wanted to add about that, or some thoughts? Or
no, I was just going to talk about the split screen effect and how it worked. If you wanted to go into that,
yeah. So what I was going to say is, I thought the movie was a delight. It was very delightful. It was very fun.
I enjoyed it a lot.
It was double the amount of things I liked.
I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. I knew I liked the version that we'd seen, obviously, from our childhood, but I wasn't sure if I was going to like this. But I did actually really like this, and the cry laughing did help me rate it pretty highly.
So I wrote that it was double the amount of fun than Pollyanna, and it must have been very fun to shoot. So speaking of shooting, go ahead and talk about your optical flipping.
Optical flipping. Yes, so I did some research to figure out, because this always bothered me. I wanted to know how Lindsay Lohan did it, so I wanted to know how these people did it way back in the 60s. So how they did it was they used split screen effect. So how they did that was optical printing. So basically the split screen effect was achieved by a process called optical printing, where two separate pieces of film were combined into one shot. Each twin, the one girl, was filmed separately, and then the scenes were later merged to create the appearance that both were on the same screen at the same time, simultaneously.
Very fun film.
It said a matte line or dividing line was used to separate the two halves of the frame. The camera operators had to ensure that the lines didn't cross any moving objects or characters to avoid breaking the illusion. It actually was from what I understood, a very intricate process to make sure that they didn't like mess things up. And it was well, like you, it was definitely one of those things where you had to pay attention so that way nothing crossed over and broke that illusion. So it was not like an easy do. There was also the use of body doubles, where a body double stood in for the second twin during scenes where one twin's back or profile was visible, so they didn't have to like, especially like in the let's get together part. If you pay attention to that, you can definitely see like the side profile of somebody else's face that you can tell that that's not them. So they did use the body doubles. Haley's Mills lines and movements had to be meticulously timed and rehearsed so her performance would sync with the doubles positioning.
Must have been so fun. Shoot.
Yeah, and during one of the scenes where the twins were in the water and they got what's her name in the water, Vicky, and tricked her into thinking it wasn't that deep. When you see them both laughing, they are in the water. They actually didn't do the split screen reference there. That was two different girls, and I was like, that's definitely not her.
Well, because one was on the other person's shoulders. There's no way to do that.
Yeah, but like the way they filmed the whole movie, like when both of their faces were done, they used the split screen tech, and I guess maybe because of the water rippling and stuff, maybe they couldn't have done it in the water scene. So it was just a quick glance of her laughing, like two girls but obviously one of them was not Haley Mills. Anyway, another ideal thing that I had to do here was to ensure that the lighting and the focus matched perfectly on both sides of the frame because of them having to match things up. So any discrepancies would ruin the illusion. It was a very labor-intensive process. It used a lot of significant time and effort during both the filming and post-production. And each scene with the twin was essentially filmed twice, which was basically doubling their workload. Yeah. So I didn't really get it in my notes, but I would love to have seen how long this took and if it was any better when they redid it.
Yeah. So it was fun.
Yeah.
It was.
And I guess this technique has been refined in other films and staple movies and TVs and shows where twins or doppelgangers are in place now, so maybe that was a innovative thing for him.
But yeah, on the complete opposite, during the Full House, when two twins played one girl as opposed to one person playing twins. But so, what you rate it?
Rating. So IMDb gave it a 7.2 out of 10. I gave it a 9.
A 9. What a swing! You just rated this the same as 101 Dalmatians.
I did.
So.
I rated it a 9, and the only reason I rated it so highly was because of
Let's get together. Yeah.
No, you moron. It's like, are you okay, Kristen?
Yeah, you were laughing.
It takes a lot for me to laugh in a movie, and that really gets on Jeffrey's nerves.
True.
But
so, where does this make your list upon a star? And if so,
it does. It does make my list upon a star. We're okay. Sorry, absent-minded professor. It was very short-lived, but I really did enjoy you. I promise, I did. So, Lord, come on.
Dang.
Ta-da! I really didn't expect to like this movie as much as I did. I thought I just kind of erased Fantasia. I really didn't think I was going to like it like I did, but I really did enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to, like you said, a handful of years when we get to our generation's Parent Trap.
Would you like to read?
I liked it a lot better than I thought I was going to. It was a surprise, so I enjoyed it for sure.
Well, would you like to read your list upon a star?
Yep. So I have 101 Dalmatians, The Parent Trap, Sleeping Beauty, Dumbo, Lady and the Tramp, The Three Caballeros, The Shaggy Dog, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland. And
Fantasia, would you kind of erased it a little bit?
yeah, I know it was Fantasia, but I was gonna be funny with it and I was gonna say Fartasia.
Did you erase some of it?
As I erased the end, sorry. It's Fantasia, obviously.
So, since this is all about twins,
Yeah.
I'm going to twinly match you and make my list, but I am not going as high as you. Are you nuts? I'll say this about this.
He didn't laugh as hard as I did, so obviously he
I've
didn't
seen this
enjoy it as
before.
much.
I've seen this before.
I think it's one of your mom's favorites, right?
So, as I was not this one.
I thought she liked this one.
The '90s remake is my mom's favorite movie of all time. Like I'm talking every day growing up. It was the '90s.
Oh, I thought
remake.
she liked this one.
No, and so I wrote on this. I said, I wrote, "Sorry, Mom, but this one was way more fun than the '90s remake." But we'll get there in a few years. I'm going to replace my number 10 down here. So goodbye, Three Caballeros. It was a
oh
fun
my
ride.
gosh!
I mean, either way, it's got to go. It was my 10th one. Like, even if
I
put it
know,
in there.
but
So, my list upon a star is number 1, the 101 Dalmatians, Peter Pan at number 2, then followed by Alice in Wonderland, Pinocchio, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, still on from the very beginning, Sleeping Beauty, Lady and the Tramp, The Swiss Family Robinson, which I absolutely loved, and this new film, The Parent Trap, ending out my list. Yeah, I loved it. It was fun. All the things that I talked about how I didn't like about Pollyanna, it comes through with me liking this one. But again, I want to wish everybody a very happy, merry, safe, and memorable holiday season. If you want to give the gift of the Deep Diving the Magic podcast, please tell your friends and your loved ones about us. We're on the YouTube, the Spotify, the Instagram, and we are on deepdivingthemagicpod@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you about some Disney Christmas gifts or just some Disney ideas, or even your thoughts on this film. But as we discussed a few films ago, that a certain Disney film about dogs was a Christmas movie. So what better way to celebrate the deep dive a few days after the holiday than with a film that is literally all about a dog? A much, much different kind of film about a dog. And that is from July 12th, 1961, which is a film I had never heard of before.
I had also never heard of it.
But it is the 54th Disney feature-length film, and it is a film called Nicky, Wild Dog of the North. So, happy holidays. We'll see you then.
Happy holidays. Thanks for deep diving the magic.
Bye.
Bye.